My wife cheated with her ex during her sister's wedding reception, and I found out. I quickly filmed the betrayal and gathered our two families to expose what she had done. The five of us were sitting in the living room of our small, cozy apartment. We had been in this scene several times before, when Lisa, my lovely wife of 3 years, and I had our parents over. But unfortunately, this time, it was not a pleasant Sunday dinner. My future ex-wife was sitting on the couch, wedged between her parents, while my mother sat next to me on our small sofa. She was holding my hand for support, but I knew she was holding back with all her might to keep the promise she had made me. I had asked her not to say anything during this conversation, to let me handle it my own way. She had reluctantly agreed after I explained what was going to happen. Since everyone had arrived, the only word she had spoken was hello. But before that, she had had time to say much more. I remember word for word what she had told me before the others arrived. "I wish your father was here," she had said. I just nodded my head. I did not have the courage to admit that in reality, I was relieved he was not present. No son wants his father there to witness the collapse of his marriage. Besides, I knew he hated Margaret, my mother-in-law. It would have turned into a third world war. My plan would have had no chance of working with him around. I can even imagine what he would have said. "Son, do what you have to do. We will always be behind you." And then he would have given me that "I told you so" look before smirking. Well, I admit, I missed him anyway, but I needed everything to go as calmly as possible so as not to lose control. And with him there, it would have been mission impossible. For my plan to work, I had to stay cold, unemotional. A week of ruminating over everything that had happened in the last 7 days had destroyed me inside. I just prayed to be numb enough to face it. It was my father-in-law who broke the silence. "Danny, thank you for having us," said Phil. I looked at him and noticed how exhausted his eyes were. In fact, all three of them looked like they had spent, no doubt, several sleepless nights at the Thomases. I almost felt sorry for him. I like him, my father-in-law. He is a good guy, even if he sometimes seems a little weak in front of his wife and daughter. At the other end of the couch sat my mother-in-law. There, the northern dragon, ready to bite. Margaret, but never call her Marge, struggled to hide the contempt she felt for me. To say that I was the person she hated most on earth because I had stolen one of her daughters would still be an understatement. According to her, I had corrupted her daughter before the marriage, and for that, I deserved to be stoned in the public square. Of course, she gladly forgot that Lisa was not a saint when I met her. But hey, why let the facts spoil a good witch hunt? I knew this meeting would be very painful for her, and to be honest, it even gave me a slight satisfaction. She was going to have to swallow her venom if she wanted a chance to save this marriage, even though frankly there was nothing left to save. But that, they had not yet understood. Between her parents, there was Lisa, in simple jeans and a blouse. And despite everything, I found her beautiful. She was not a model, but she had that pretty girl next door look. Even with her eyes red from crying too much, I still saw the girl I fell in love with 5 years ago. When I looked at her, a sharp pain squeezed my chest to the point of taking my breath away. From the outside, I looked calm and cold, but inside, it was still a gaping wound, and obviously, she was not well either. But honestly, I did not feel much compassion for her. She was the one who had caused it all. What really destroyed everything was my reaction, which ruined her little sister's wedding reception last Saturday. I am sure the guests will never forget it. Stephanie and Mike's wedding. Since then, Lisa had been living with her parents. It was the first time we had seen each other since that day. The few times I had spoken to her on the phone had been a total disaster. So, I had decided to stop answering. When I asked her why she had done it, all I got were pathetic excuses. At that moment, I realized that I might have never really known the woman I had married. "I know this is a difficult time for both of you," my father-in-law continued. "But I hope we can talk and start rebuilding this marriage." "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I understand your intention, but there is no point in trying to revive something that is already dead," I replied. Luckily, we did not have any children. All that is left is to bury this corpse and start the divorce. "Danny," Lisa whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I do not want a divorce." I stared at her and clenched my teeth to keep my composure. "And I did not want to catch my wife with her ex-girlfriend at your sister's wedding reception," I retorted. I think I had trouble hiding my anger. "We do not need that kind of language, Daniel," said the dragon with that condescending tone that gives me chills. "This is not your house, Marge. I snapped back. And you can leave whenever you want. I saw her swallow her response. I really thought she was going to explode, but to my surprise, she remained silent. Hell must have frozen over. Danny, I am sorry, Lisa sobbed. It was a mistake. A mistake, I repeated, trying not to let my contempt show. Looking at everyone's faces on the couch, I must have failed. Tell me, Lisa, what exactly was a mistake? I continued. Was it being so drunk at the party that you thought it was normal to dance like that with your ex? Or when I separated you and you screamed in front of everyone? You do not control me. I dance with whoever I want. Maybe the mistake was mine for taking my eyes off you. An hour later, you were gone. When I finally found you, you were still with him. And do not tell me it was a lapse in judgment. I know it was not a mistake when I punched him in the face and kept going until you started screaming that I was hurting him. I said, furious. Maybe my mistake was stopping, because as soon as I turned back to you, the other one ran away. So tell me, Lisa, where was the mistake? Was it dancing so close to him that you ended up in a compromising position? Danny, she cried. I was drunk. I am sorry. I do not know what happened. You do not know? I said coldly. It is simple, though. I bet Marge has already explained what a relationship is, right? Two people commit to being faithful, especially after marriage. There is no room for others. Please, Danny, forgive me. It will never happen again, she begged. Her father tried to intervene. Danny, I know it sounds awful. I started to answer, but he raised his hand and continued. Okay. I know. It is awful, Danny, but it only happened once, son. You are both strong. You can get through this. Mr. Thomas, I might have been able to try to get over a one-time thing, but this did not just happen once, did it? I turned to Lisa, watching her face turn even more livid. I turned back to my father-in-law. It seems your daughter wanted to be a model big sister for Stephanie's bachelorette party. So model that she decided to show her how to behave in a completely inappropriate way. And apparently, Stephanie learned quickly. I saw the shock on their faces. I received a video this week. It is amazing how well phones record these days. It is not a Hollywood production, but you can clearly see the Thomas sisters having fun with some male entertainment. Lisa hid her face in her hands and let out a moan. My God, does Mike know about this? I continued coldly. I'm not talking about the week-long honeymoon part. He must already know that. I am talking about the entertainment. Someone should tell him, right? So he does not swallow that it was just one story. Now Phil and Marge were as pale as their daughter. The silence was only broken by Lisa's sobs. I must admit that what happened next took me by surprise. I thought that after this bombshell about the entertainment, the meeting would end there. But I was wrong. First, I was surprised to see how quiet Marge had been until then. Then, I imagined she would try to turn the situation around, make a scene, brand me as the monster, force me to stay married. Just long enough to find a way to destroy me in public and play the victim. But that was my mistake, because for her, the best defense is always a good offense, and she went on the offensive. You hypocrite. Margaret spat. You think you are the only innocent one here? Margaret, please. Phil begged her, trying to calm the beast. No, she replied immediately. I am not going to let this guy threaten our family, especially since I have proof that he is as guilty as Lisa. The silence was, and then, as if by a bad magic trick, she started rummaging through her huge bag. A few seconds later, she pulled out a large brown envelope and threw it at me like an official accusation. Here is the proof, she growled. Photos of your car in the parking lot of the roadside motel last month. At the time when you were supposed to be in Chicago for a business trip. There are also copies of the motel's registers. My mother sighed and squeezed my hand tighter. Marge continued, using the name John Smith. Really original? Huh, she said with a smug smile. But the motel receptionist noted the license plate number. Lisa still had her face buried in her hands, sobbing. Marge hugged her like a protective mother. It is going to be okay, sweetie, she whispered. Mommy has taken care of everything. I told the women at church about it 2 weeks ago. I bet the whole town already knows. When they hear about what happened at the reception, they will understand that it is because he cheated on you first. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. From the outside, I looked calm. But inside, my heart felt like it was trying to escape from my chest, and my mind was screaming for me to stand up and face this dragon. Maybe I was in shock. I took the envelope. I opened it. I examined the contents. Then I handed it to my mother. I saw that her eyes were filled with tears. I took her hand back and smiled at her, trying to reassure her. Well, Marge, I said calmly, looking her straight in the eye, before you play detective, you might have wanted to take a basic investigation course. She stared at me, destabilized. I continued, the famous business trip to Chicago was actually a training seminar organized by the company. They sent me to get a certification. There were over 30 people with me. You can ask any of them. I attended every boring session for 4 full days. I saw Marge's gaze start to waver. Oh, and while I was away, Lisa left her car at the garage for some repairs. Do you want to guess which car she drove those days? The penny started to drop, and I pushed the point home. Another interesting detail, you remember Lisa's colleagues at the Southside Medical Clinic? You remember Dr. Smith? Well, his full name is Dr. Samuel Jonathan Smith. My father-in-law almost choked. Him? But he is older than me. Yes, I replied with irony. It looks like your little girl has some unresolved issues with father figures. Good luck with the therapy, Phil. Danny, Lisa whispered in a tiny voice. Oh, I know. I cut her off coldly. It was just once, huh? I stood up and faced the trio sitting on my couch. I knew I would not last much longer without losing control. It had to end. I think we have said everything. You can leave. Phil stood up and helped Lisa to her feet. Marge remained seated, frozen. For a moment, I thought she was having a stroke or a nervous breakdown. But no such luck. She regained her composure, stood up, gave me that icy stare and said, I expected better from you, Daniel. And I expected nothing less from you, Marge. You behaved exactly like the arrogant hypocrite you have always been. Now, get out of my apartment. She was boiling with rage, but she left. Phil surprised me by hugging me tightly before running after her. Only Lisa was left. She lifted her face. Her beautiful green eyes were swollen from crying so much, overflowing with pain and shame. And despite everything, I felt my own eyes start to sting too. Danny, I have no words to say how ashamed I am, she said in a trembling voice. I am sorry. Not as much as I am, Lisa, I replied. I regret wasting my love on someone like you. She let out a sob, turned on her heel, and ran out. When I closed the door behind her, a wave of emotion washed over me. I pressed my forehead against the wood and tried in vain to hold back my tears. The truth is, I still loved this woman, a lying, unfaithful woman. And she had hurt me like no one ever had before. I did not even know why she had cheated on me. But honestly, knowing would not have changed anything. Our marriage was dead. The pain, the anger, and the sadness would not go away anytime soon. My mother came over and hugged me. Are you going to be okay? She whispered. No, I replied softly. And I will not be for a long time, but I will eventually get better. Your father would have been proud of how you handled all this, she said. Do you already know what you are going to do now? My mother asked. I shook my head. There is not much to share. So, I think I will follow Marge's advice and cause as much embarrassment as possible. I am going to have the bailiff serve Lisa the divorce papers as soon as they leave church on Sunday. Oh, and I am going to see if I can sue that dear doctor and his clinic. Even if I do not win anything, I want him to receive the notification at work. That will cause a nice scandal. And Mike and Stephanie? My mother asked. Mom, if someone sent me that video, there is a good chance it was sent to Mike too. And if not, he needs to know. Maybe they can get through this. I hope. Who knows? Maybe it will prevent future betrayals, and their marriage will last longer than our 3 years. I am going to send an email to Stephanie. I am giving her a week to tell her husband everything before I do it myself. My mother looked at me with a small smile. Just like your father, she said, nodding her head. Too bad he could not hear this meeting, I replied. She smiled and opened her purse. She took out a small dictaphone. He asked me to record it. He wanted to listen to you when I got back. You know, it almost killed him not to be able to be here. It hurt him when you asked him not to come. He understood, but it hurt him. Well, apparently, I am going to have a lot of free time to make up for it. Since all my future plans just went up in smoke, I sighed. I shook my head, overwhelmed. I feel like I have lost 5 years of my life. No, my dear, she said softly. You have just learned some painful lessons, but you will use them to make your next marriage stronger. Next marriage? I said with a bitter laugh. I do not even know if I will ever be able to trust a woman again. She took a step back, smiled, and said, My dear, you are only 27 years old. It will take time, but one day, a special woman will appear and you will try again. My mother, the eternal optimist. She kissed me on the cheek. And I am still waiting for my grandchildren, you know, she added, laughing. We laughed together. And despite all the pain inside, that laugh brought me a glimmer of hope. I knew that one day I would find happiness again. 5 years later, the soft late afternoon light streamed through the windows of my new office as I leaned back in my leather chair, rereading the quarterly reports. Thomas & Associates, my medical consulting firm, had exceeded all expectations once again. It was hard to believe how much everything had changed in 5 years. The voice of my secretary echoed through the intercom. Mr. Daniel, your wife called. She asked to remind you about dinner with your parents tonight. Oh, and the reporter from Business Weekly has arrived for the interview. Thank you, Jeanette. Send him in, I replied, adjusting my tie with a smile on my lips. Life has a way of putting everything back in its place. After the divorce was finalized, I had thrown myself into work like never before. The lawsuit against Dr. Smith and his clinic ended in an out-of-court settlement, a considerable sum that allowed me to start my own business. And we discovered that professional misconduct was not the worst of his flaws. The medical board ended up revoking his license after discovering his extracurricular activities with employees. The reporter entered, young, looking like a fresh graduate, notebook in hand. Mr. Daniel, thank you for agreeing to this interview. Our readers are fascinated by your story of resilience. From a failed marriage to the creation of one of the most successful medical consulting firms in the state in just 5 years. I let out a small laugh. Sometimes the best motivation comes from the worst moments. It seems your ex-wife tried to contest the divorce settlement, he asked curiously. She tried, yes. But unfortunately for her, duly documented adultery, thanks to a zealous mother-in-law, carries a lot of weight with a judge. I replied professionally with a slight smile. And where is she today? She works at a clinic in another state. As for Dr. Smith, he lost his license, so she had to find another position. And her family? Her sister Stephanie divorced Mike 6 months after the wedding. Apparently, the famous bachelorette party video finally reached him. Today, she is married to a really nice accountant. We even get along well. Can you believe that? And your ex-mother-in-law. I could not help but burst out laughing. Margaret, sorry, never call me Marge, had to swallow a lot of pride when the truth came out. Finding out that she had spread lies about me in a small town and ending up exposed was humiliating. She and Phil moved to Florida. I send them a Christmas card every year. The reporter's eyes widened. One could say that is generous of you. Phil was always decent to me, and as for Margaret, let us just say that success is the best revenge. And in those cards, I always include a family photo with a little note about the good health of the business, I replied with a calm smile. After another 20 minutes of discussing business strategy and expansion plans, the reporter put away his notebook. Last question, Mr. Daniel. Do you regret the way all of this ended? I was silent for a few seconds. I took out my phone, turned it on, and showed him my wallpaper, a photo of my wife Shannon and our 2-year-old daughter Emma, playing on the beach last summer. Not for a single second, I replied. I met Shannon at a conference 2 years ago. She is a lawyer, specializing in medical law, brilliant, beautiful, and above all, has integrity. We just found out we are expecting our second child. Congratulations, the reporter said with a sincere smile. So your mother finally got the grandchildren she was hoping for? She did, yes. And she constantly reminds me that she told me I would meet someone good again. After he left, I gathered my things and hit the road. My mother was making her famous roast, and my father, no doubt, would want to hear every detail of this interview. They were my rock at the worst moment of my life. Now, they could see their son up close rebuilding something real, solid, beautiful. On the way home, I thought back to that terrible day 5 years ago when my world had collapsed. The pain had been unbearable, but it had transformed me. It had taught me what true love is, showed me the value of an authentic partnership and what really matters in a person. I parked in front of the house. My house and Shannon's. Through the kitchen window, I saw her, Shannon and Emma, with an art project. Emma had inherited her mother's blonde hair and my tenacity, and she was already showing signs of being far too clever for her own good. My phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. I saw the article online. Congratulations on your success. I stared at the message for a few seconds, then deleted it without replying. Some chapters in life are best left closed. I walked to the door and heard my daughter's laughter inside. And right after, Shannon's laughter. Light, sincere, real. That was the real victory. Not proving something to anyone, but building something real with someone who truly deserves it. I opened the door and entered my real life. I left the past behind me, exactly where it needed to stay.